Pardon, Urbanspoon's slot machine. Found great food, Yelp bought it. In the early days of smartphones, when the iPhone was still a revolutionary concept and mobile apps were barely a twinkle in developers' eyes, finding a good restaurant meant flipping through yellowing phonebook pages or relying on word-of-mouth recommendations from friends. But in 2006, while most people were still using flip phones and MapQuest printouts, a small Seattle-based company called Urbanspoon was quietly working on something that would transform how people discovered restaurants. Founded by Ethan Lowry, the company initially started as a web-based restaurant discovery platform, but it was their eventual mobile app that would make them a household name. The genius wasn't just in the restaurant listings or reviews, it was in how they gamified the entire experience of finding food. Urbanspoon's signature feature, the shake-to-search function that mimicked a slot machine, turned the mundane task of restaurant hunting into something genuinely fun and addictive. Users could literally shake their phone and watch as 3 spinning wheels, representing price range, neighborhood, and cuisine type, would randomly land on a combination, presenting them with restaurant suggestions they might never have considered otherwise. When Urbanspoon launched their iPhone app in 2008, just 1 year after Apple's App Store debuted, they were perfectly positioned to capitalize on the mobile revolution. The app's interface was brilliantly simple, yet engaging. The slot machine metaphor was immediately understood by users, and the physical act of shaking the phone created a tactile connection that desktop websites could never achieve. The shake gesture activated the phone's accelerometer, causing the 3 spinning reels to tumble and eventually stop on random selections. This wasn't just a gimmick. It solved a real problem that many diners faced: decision paralysis when confronted with too many restaurant choices. By introducing an element of chance and discovery, Urbanspoon made choosing where to eat feel like a game rather than a chore. The app gained traction quickly, reaching over 100,000 downloads within its first few months. Restaurant owners began to take notice as well, as Urbanspoon offered them a platform to showcase their establishments with photos, menus, and customer reviews. The company's business model was straightforward. They made money through advertising and premium listings that allowed restaurants to feature more prominently in search results. What set Urbanspoon apart from other restaurant apps of the era was their focus on visual design and user experience. While competitors were creating utilitarian directory-style apps, Urbanspoon invested heavily in making their platform visually appealing and intuitive. The slot machine interface wasn't just functional, it was genuinely entertaining. Users would shake their phones multiple times, not just to find restaurants, but because the act itself was satisfying. The app displayed restaurants with large, appetizing photos and incorporated a unique rating system that combined professional reviews, user ratings, and popularity metrics into a single score. They also introduced neighborhood-specific features that helped users discover local hotspots and hidden gems. By 2009, Urbanspoon had expanded beyond Seattle to cover major metropolitan areas across the United States, and their database included over 350,000 restaurants. The company raised $8 million in Series A funding from Founders Co-op and other investors, which allowed them to accelerate their expansion and improve their technology platform. The competitive landscape in restaurant discovery was heating up significantly by 2010. Yelp, founded in 2004, had established itself as the dominant player in online restaurant reviews, but they were primarily a web-based platform that hadn't yet mastered the mobile experience. Foursquare was gaining momentum with their location-based check-in model, while newcomers like OpenTable were focusing on the reservation aspect of dining. Urbanspoon found their niche by being the most mobile-native of these platforms, and their shake feature became their defining characteristic. Users began referring to the act of using Urbanspoon as shaking for restaurants, and the feature became so synonymous with the brand that many people couldn't imagine the app without it. The company's user base grew to over 15 million active users by 2011, and they were processing millions of restaurant searches monthly. Urbanspoon's data showed that users who discovered restaurants through the shake feature were more likely to actually visit those establishments compared to users who found restaurants through traditional search methods, suggesting that the element of randomness and surprise actually improved user engagement and conversion rates. However, success in the mobile app world is often fleeting, and by 2012, Urbanspoon was facing increased pressure from well-funded competitors. Yelp had gone public and was aggressively expanding their mobile presence, hiring top engineering talent and investing heavily in app development. Their mobile app downloads began to outpace Urbanspoon's, and they were attracting more restaurant owners to their platform with sophisticated business tools and analytics. Google was also becoming a formidable competitor with integrated restaurant information in Google Maps and search results, making it easier for users to find dining options without downloading a separate app. Urbanspoon tried to differentiate by adding new features like reservation integration and social sharing capabilities, but they struggled to maintain their early momentum. The company's growth rate began to slow, and they found it increasingly difficult to compete for prime real estate on users' home screens. Despite having a loyal user base that loved the shake feature, Urbanspoon was losing the broader battle for market share in restaurant discovery. The writing was on the wall by 2013 when Yelp's mobile app became the #1 restaurant app in most major markets. Yelp had successfully transitioned from a web-focused platform to a mobile-first experience, and their vast database of user reviews gave them a significant advantage over smaller competitors. Urbanspoon's management team, led by CEO Tom Conrad, who had joined the company in 2011, began exploring strategic options, including potential partnerships and acquisition opportunities. They attempted to revitalize the brand by expanding internationally, launching in several Canadian cities and exploring European markets. But these efforts required significant investment without guaranteed returns. The company also experimented with new features like food delivery integration and expanded social features. But none of these innovations captured user attention the way the original shake feature had. By 2014, Urbanspoon's daily active user count had plateaued, while Yelp's continued to grow, and the company was burning through cash trying to keep up with better-funded competitors. The inevitable conclusion came in August 2015, when Yelp announced they were acquiring Urbanspoon for approximately $40 million, a fraction of what the company might have commanded during its peak years. The acquisition was primarily motivated by Yelp's desire to eliminate a competitor and acquire Urbanspoon's user base, particularly their strength in certain geographic markets where Urbanspoon still maintained a loyal following. Yelp CEO Jeremy Stoppelman stated that the acquisition would help Yelp expand their reach and provide better restaurant discovery options for consumers. However, industry observers noted that the deal was relatively small for Yelp, suggesting they were more interested in removing competition than integrating Urbanspoon's technology. The acquisition included Urbanspoon's database of restaurant listings, user reviews, and their technology platform. But notably, Yelp showed little interest in preserving Urbanspoon's unique features or brand identity. For Urbanspoon's investors and employees, the sale represented a disappointing end to what had once been a promising company with genuine innovation in mobile user experience. Yelp's handling of the Urbanspoon acquisition exemplified the tech industry's ruthless approach to competition. Rather than integrating Urbanspoon's beloved shake feature or maintaining the app as a separate product, Yelp systematically dismantled everything that made Urbanspoon unique. In September 2015, just 1 month after the acquisition closed, Yelp announced that Urbanspoon's mobile app would be discontinued and removed from app stores. Existing users were directed to download Yelp's app instead, but none of Urbanspoon's distinctive features made the transition. The iconic shake-to-search functionality, which had been Urbanspoon's calling card for nearly 7 years, was completely abandoned. Yelp argued that their own app provided superior restaurant discovery tools, but they offered no equivalent to the playful, serendipitous experience that Urbanspoon had pioneered. The company migrated Urbanspoon's restaurant database and user reviews into their own platform, but stripped away the unique interface and user experience that had differentiated Urbanspoon from generic restaurant apps. Within 6 months of the acquisition, virtually all traces of Urbanspoon had been erased from the digital landscape. The death of Urbanspoon represents more than just another tech acquisition gone wrong. It illustrates how innovation and user-beloved features can be casualties of corporate consolidation. The shake-to-search feature was more than just a gimmick. It represented a fundamentally different philosophy about how people discover new experiences. Where traditional search requires users to know what they want, Urbanspoon's approach embraced uncertainty and spontaneity, encouraging users to try restaurants they might never have found otherwise. Food bloggers and restaurant critics noted that Urbanspoon had actually improved dining culture by helping people break out of their usual patterns and explore diverse cuisines and neighborhoods. The app's demise meant losing a tool that had genuinely made dining more adventurous and fun for millions of users. Yelp's more conventional approach to restaurant discovery, while comprehensive and review-heavy, lacked the element of surprise and playfulness that had made Urbanspoon special. The acquisition eliminated not just a competitor, but an entirely different way of thinking about restaurant discovery. Today, more than 8 years after Urbanspoon's demise, no major restaurant app has successfully replicated the shake-to-search experience or the broader philosophy of serendipitous dining discovery. Yelp remains the dominant player in restaurant reviews and discovery, but their platform is fundamentally different from what Urbanspoon offered, more focused on user-generated reviews and systematic search than on spontaneous exploration. Several smaller apps have attempted to capture some of Urbanspoon's magic with features like random restaurant suggestions and surprise recommendations, but none have achieved significant market penetration or recreated the simple joy of shaking a phone to find dinner. The story of Urbanspoon serves as a cautionary tale about the tech industry's tendency to prioritize market dominance over innovation and user experience. While Yelp certainly benefited from eliminating a competitor and acquiring Urbanspoon's user base, the broader ecosystem of restaurant discovery became less diverse and arguably less interesting. For the millions of users who loved shaking their phones to find new restaurants, Urbanspoon's death marked the end of an era when mobile apps felt magical rather than merely functional. The slot machine that found great food is gone, leaving behind only the memory of what restaurant discovery could be when it embraced chance, surprise, and the simple pleasure of not knowing what you might find.